Hey, Nish here, and as a sort of 1000 subscriber special, I thought I'd talk a little bit about my video making process, just in case it's something of curiosity. Now, I'm certainly not a professional. All of these things I've kind of learnt along the way. I've put together this process. I started off not knowing what the hell I was doing, and I still don't really know. So my video making process obviously has to start with planning, and the first part of that is coming up with an idea for a video. Now, these ideas tend to just pop out of thin air into my brain. I'm like, oh yeah, I could make a video about that. And so I take these ideas, and one tool I use a hell of a lot is called Notion. I'm a big fan of this. It's kind of like a note-taking program, but on steroids. That's the best way I could describe it. And it's very, very customizable and very powerful. And I certainly don't use it to its maximum capabilities, but I've put together a kind of board that I use. And you can see this here. Each of these boxes is like a document that you can click into, but you can see you can organize them by stage. For example, if they're in a particular stage of shooting or planning. I used to use Word documents back in the day. I said back in the day, like a few years back. And that's not a bad option as well. You can set up templates, but I really like Notion because it's on all devices. It's just get Notion. If you get anything from this video, just start using that. As for the rest of the planning, the first thing I like to do is set up a vague kind of script. Now I say script, but it's very much a word vomit thing in the first stage. I just put down everything that I'd like to say and just type away, and then I'll come back to it in a couple days and kind of reduce the redundancies, make sure there's some clear sections laid out, and reduce the clutter. When it comes to shooting the A-roll, I don't actually read from a script. What I'll tend to do is do a dry run, kind of reading the vague script I have, and then I'll just shoot it in chunks, and I'll check each section just to make sure I'm on track. When it comes to shooting, I'll start with the A-roll, so I'll run through and get all of this down. And, you know, it's a very short part of the process, but it's one of the parts I enjoy quite a lot because I feel like some kind of actor or presenter or something like that. But it's usually over quite quickly. And then what I actually do, and what I've started doing, is editing this A-roll first. And the reason why I do that is I edit that, get it in place, and while I'm doing that, I'll make a list of the B-roll I want to get, like the little clips I want to show at each point. I used to do this the other way around, and I'd always find myself going back and filming little bits and then copying over, and it was just a little bit laborious, so I like to do it this way. Speaking of editing, one of the things I do at the moment is I have a folder template to organize all the files. I got this idea from some other random YouTube video at some point, but I like it because you set up a folder template with, you know, say folders for audio, A-roll, B-roll, and maybe even a blank template for your video editing program of choice. And it's just a lot easier that way because then when you start a new video, you can copy that and then just start from there. As far as editing goes, I currently use Vegas, which is certainly not one of the top specced, well, it's probably not one of the most popular tools out there for video editing, but I've just used it for a long time, and there's a lot of features in the workflow that I'm very used to. I did try and use DaVinci Resolve at one point, and there were a couple things that were annoying me. It's silly stuff, but it's, for example, in Vegas, you can slide clips into each other to create a fade, whereas when you do that in DaVinci, it instead cuts into the first clip. And besides, the crappy laptop I have right now cannot handle DaVinci, but it can handle Vegas, so it's a good option right now. While I'm on that topic, I still use my phone to record things. I've still not bothered to buy a camera because, well, I don't know, I think phone recordings can be pretty good. I've got a Samsung 20 right now, which is a lot better than the S8 I had before that. So generally speaking, I have a very low investment approach to making videos. I'm also using a fairly inexpensive microphone. I did invest in that because audio is quite important to invest in. It's a Samsung Q2U, which is new, which I'm a really big fan of, actually. I need to work on the review of that, but you know, my experience of it so far is it produces a really good sound and it was very cheap. The way I'll tend to do editing is I'll try and do a quick first pass, slotting in the B-roll. So I've already done the A-roll. I've already cut out all the mistakes and the ums and ers and big pauses. And then I'll go in and stick in the B-roll where I want it to be and make sure the sections are clear. And then I'll do one more pass where I just watch the whole thing, make sure all of the little cuts are okay, and ideally there would be one more watch before I call the video finalized, and at that point then I'll render and be ready to upload. At the same time though, I need to be thinking about thumbnail and title, of course, two very, very important things for YouTube, which I don't spend nearly enough time thinking about or optimizing, but you know, at some point during the process I start making a thumbnail. I use Inkscape, another free open source program, big fan of it, highly recommend that as well. So that and Notion, you just take away from this video, use Inkscape and Notion. So yeah, I'll put together that thumbnail and think of a title along the way, and at that point I'll upload, and that is pretty much it. I don't usually go back and I try and sometimes go back and revise the title and see if that makes a difference, but I have no clue if it actually does. And that's the entire process. Hopefully a potentially interesting video. I'm not sure. Let me know your thoughts. If you're a video maker as well and you have any tips, or you think I'm doing something horrifically wrong, I would welcome the feedback and advice, and maybe other people could benefit from that as well. I will try and return to some more review type content because I think it's been lacking looking at the things I've been making recently. But again, hopefully it was interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.